One and all. It's amazing what the effects of coffee have on a human body. I was about to talk. I was going to sit in my truck and rant about politics, but I had that first sip of mood altering drink. Forget that. Why should we waste another minute of time thinking about stuff that just drives us nuts? Whatever side of the fence you're on. But I've been investigating my past, and I have come to the conclusion that if I had to do over again, there would be several life choices that would be hard to make. Would I go this direction or that direction? And two of them would be the direction I took right now. I don't know, but I probably would. Who's to second guess ourselves? One would be if I was an eager young 18-year-old, you know what I would get into? One choice would be tree work. There's nothing like it. I mean, the rush of hooking yourself to the ball of a crane and getting yanked up into a giant tree and then figuring out centers of gravity and putting slings and taking it apart, or else getting up, over 100 feet like in a white pine or something, and they call it a tree worker's convertible when you take the top off and you go for a ride. Because if it's a healthy tree, if it was a healthy tree, I'd tell my boss, make it rock and roll. And so he'd be on the bottom controlling the ropes. The theory is you don't want that top to go like this. But in all honesty, if it was a nice healthy tree and you were up high, it would be fun to get knocked off your spurs. I did it intentionally. And it was so fun when you get jerked around so much, your eyes are kind of like the cartoon noise, But lest I just think of things, even when I broke out of a tree, I wasn't a tree so tall. It was about 120 feet. It was a tall, skinny, single-trunked maple. And it was so tall that there was another tree below it. My boss was working in the lower tree. I'm working in the top tree. And something happened. And I broke free and the rope stopped me. That was quite exciting, too. And I would not change that event in the world. But anyway, I'm not going to tie you up too much. I'm just going to talk about basically the difference between doing what needs to get done and then just free-flowing in the technical advancement of the future. I've got Bartlett. It's one arborist supply house. Most of this stuff was bought through Cheryl. But I look through the photogs here, and I'm looking at people that they look like, here's just one example. Look at all that stuff on that guy's saddle. Take another look. There's probably about $400 worth of hardware on there that I feel is unnecessary. And you might say, well, John, you're just using a split tail and you're foot locking your way up, not secured foot locking, which you're climbing on both the ropes and it's like twice as fast, but you're using 3 times the horsepower. And also you have to take time to re-rig at the top because you're not going to be working the tree on that double rope. So you have to take the time to undo it. But boy, you climbed up that first 30 feet fast, or 50. See, my point is that I was studying the trees around here and I've climbed all these big trees. And we've trimmed short ones, apple trees and stuff like that, but I would say that in the real world of northern Michigan, the average tree we worked would be anywhere from maybe 35 feet to 120 feet, in that range. And to scamper up a 120-foot tree, if you went to the tippity top, and you're not climbing on the rope all that way because you get to the portion of that trunkage where there's branches and then you're climbing like a monkey. You don't have to climb the rope all the way to the top. You don't need all this complex, fancy technical gear. In fact, I believe that it can get you into trouble because there's too much stuff to keep track of instead of the rope tied to your D-ring and the split tail and your flip line. You don't need that. People like to just go overboard with all this highly technical stuff. Now, it is true I was not the fastest climber. I did an ISA, International Society of Arborists, competition once, and the 2 fun ones were the secured footlock climb, 50 feet, and then the body thrust thing. It took me about 50 seconds to climb 50 feet, the secured footlock. I think the fastest person was like 13 seconds. Get my drift? Whatever. What's the difference of like, 35 seconds to be a climber up? 35 seconds. That's a lot less time that it's going to take me to drink this coffee or even make a single point. When it gets down to it, what matters is you get up the tree safely, you do your work, and then you get back down. And whether or not you're 30 seconds off, who cares? Well, let's look through my goodie bag. I like this. And I've got all this cool stuff clipped onto here. Okay, tree guys, and I know there's a few watching this. Split tail number 1. 16 strand, I believe. And split tail number 2. It just depends on how festive I am. If I want to be really festive, I'll use this one. And these are daisy chained. This is fancy. This is fun, learning how to daisy chain stuff. With my Williams ball lock. Screw gates, screw them. That should be a t-shirt. Then this is another one. Doesn't matter. They both work. In effect, you take your climb line, and you've got... You have to make noises like that too. You take these things, and I'm going to just do figure 8. And this goes to the center portion, the center D of your handle. Or in the case, if you've got a floating bridge or whatever, this is attached to you. This shan't be disconnected unless you want to throw it over a branch and reconnect it. And then there's a line that comes back down over the tree. See that? It's falling down. And that's where you take this thing and hook it to your center D, and then put this tricky knot that's one way. You pull yourself up, just like you're on a pulley, in this knot around here, the Blake's hitch, or prusik, whatever, don't get tripped up. Keeps you from sliding back down. And you can rappel down it, you just put your hand on it and it loosens up. It's the magic of knots. One-way friction hitches. And some people use ascenders, which are mechanical doohickeys, or this, that, and the other thing, whatever. Again, keep it simple, stupid. What are some other necessary things? Maybe, maybe not. Now, keep in mind that I'm climbing up there, and I have to advance that, pull down in the rope and advance, pull up that friction hitch. Well, when I'm limb walking, I don't use this minder pulley when I'm climbing. Big deal, it's automatic. But when you're limb walking, keep in mind, slack kills, tension is good. I'll put this on that bottom rope that rope that's tied to my harness, and I'll do a prusik. You should all know what a prusik is. And this pulley goes underneath that friction knot, and so when I'm pulling it, magically this pulley puts tension in that rope portion that's falling. And so when you're creeping around with a chainsaw and you don't have two hands to do this stuff, the pulley does the work for you. And of course, what is this? Some of them are worn out. I need to buy new slings. These things are pretty cool. You can tie it onto a big branch. You hold onto it, you cut the branch, and then whoop, you can throw the branch onto the ground where you want. But you can also use these things. And I've used these in various places to stick my foot through because I'm kind of sideways sawing with the chainsaw a limb over here. It makes a good foot loop, it makes a good handhold, whatever. Sometimes you're actually making a ladder on the tree trunk, using your slings, but these things are super duper handy. And I know I don't use this for life support, but it's handy to have a bunch of beaners. Wire gates typically I like because they look cool, and big deal, I'm not using it for life support. I always use the AMDs, but I call them Williams ball locks. What do we have over here? I actually use this more for rigging. If I'm taking down limbs up in a tree, it's a figure eight. It's for descending and whatever. Rescue eights have the little ears here. But I use mine more than rigging. I'm not climbing the stinking Matterhorn. And so I can just rappel down with my friction knot. I don't need to disconnect this. This is another thing. if you're doing secured foot locking, tree guys, you know that this is how you get down because you're not going to rappel. On a double line with your friction hitch, you have to use one of these things. But the only time I secure foot lock on 2 lines is when I just want to show off. Because again, it's not any fast, it's faster getting up the tree, but then you have to re-rig the stuff so you've got the double line. And then this is cool. Sometimes I use this if I'm feeling festive. I know I'm wasting your time, but you know, it sure beats talking about how Biden fell asleep during a memorial in Hawaii. I never said that. I was never here. Instead of using the split tail, the blades hitch around there, and then you've got that end sticking out, which could conceivably come undone. It never does. You can just use, like, I'm not going to do a prusik because I don't have a rope to put it around, but this can be your friction hitch. You see that goes one-way knot? It can't come undone because it's a stinking loop. I don't know what this is. Is that beeline? If anyone knows, let me know in the comments. Scrunch. There's never a scrunch around when you need it. Now what about the saddles? How do I get this open? I don't know. I have this instead of a plastic helmet just because I was punking my boss. Oops. You know, I would actually go for, if I had unlimited funds and I could buy a new saddle, I would get not a Petzl Navajo, I'd get the newer Petzls, lightweight, nothing like the thing I'm going to drag out here. Not a buck strap, but a 2-way flip line. This is how you can put it around a tree trunk or a branch, and I've got one, then I want to climb up or down. I don't want to be disconnected. I can put the second one on there, and then disconnect the first one. It's got prusik right there, so I can adjust it. It's for my chainsaw. What else? What I would do, I like these lightweight saddles. They're perfectly comfortable. I'm not going to be up in a tree for like 14 days. I don't need like the seat back here for sitting, a sit harness. The center D, it works. The ropes are attached to the center. I would like, this is what I want for Christmas, Santa Claus, the floating bridge, which means the line is coming, and I could actually rig it on my side Ds, I suppose, but this is an old saddle, where there's a rope that comes from side to side, picture that, instead of this, and then there's a ring on that, so you can twist in a tree, because it's tree yoga. You're not just connected at the front. My advice would be to get the Petzl Aveo or whatever it is, the new lightweight Petzl that has like that floating bridge. Piece of cord. Let's demonstrate. The cord would be right here, and then there's the ring. You can picture it. It's enough about that. Oh, and then I've got these little wire gates for attaching stuff. Typically, I'd put my saw, and I can disconnect that, you know, and then the handle is here so you can reach around. And I've got it actually on an accessory loop because I want it to be able to pull out in case something bad happens. But I would also have my hand saw, silky, on this side. And then on this side would be the stuff like slings and arrows and all that other stuff. That's what I'm talking about. An old Master Classic made in 2011. It's not that I've got a good memory, it says right there, date 2011. Again, now I could take these and I could put the cord, you know, a couple beaners or whatever. Anyway, don't get tripped up in that attachment. And then have a ring right here. And so there would be the ability to roll in the saddle. But what I don't like about this one is, well, what I like, it does have the quick disconnects for the legs. But darn it, I wish I bought a saddle that had the quick disconnect in the front so I don't have to like wrestle with these things. Put it on and off. Actually, this is not an uncomfortable saddle. This is a good saddle. But my real only issue is it doesn't have a quick disconnect in the front. You're saying you spend more time in the air than you do on the ground putting it on and off. But you know, at the time when you're wrestling around with these stupid things and not just hooking it on, it does make a difference. Actually, I offered to sell this to somebody, and I'm thinking, is it worth the loss on this and then the expense of a new saddle just for 5 minutes of aggravation on the ground? Ben, if you're watching this, I take back my offer. I'm going to keep it. Oh, this is clever. How do you get the rope into the tree? It's magic. I'm going to do this with two things here. Oh, this is my old one. Pretended I dragged out one of the two new ones. This is ugly. It's a cambium saver. But suppose you want to get the rope up into the tree. Well, it's called a slick line and a throw bag. And if it's low, 20, maybe 30 feet, you can throw it up in there. But if it's like 70 feet, I can't hit a dedicated spot up in the tree. Some people can on these things, but I've got a big shot. It's a slingshot on a pole, and you just set this thing in there, pull it down, fire it majestically over the branch, get the bag down. In a note, never try to pull, if you missed a branch, don't pull the rope back or the slick line back with the bag on it, or it'll go shh, and you'll lose everything. Undo it and then pull it through. And then you take the line, I usually use a clove hitch, and then pull the line up. Now you've got it arranged so the rope is sliding over a branch, what have you. Could wear away the bark. And so you can actually place this thing from the ground. It's like witchcraft. Shoot your throw bag up there, and then you attach this thing on there, and it'll literally, think about this, go over that branch, and then your line is through these rings. I love it. You hear that click? Line drops, and then you pull your climb rope through this from the ground. Doesn't that sound impossible? But it works. Like it. And then these things also act like, I'm not going to dig it out, but I could also put like a prusik, you know, it's like little thin cord, strong cord, with a ring on it, so you can adjust the length of these things. And then use this when you're at the top of the tree, taking the top down, is your buck straps, so to speak. And if you get tired, you want to drink a coffee, you can rappel down, leaving this rigged at the top, and then climb back up on it, and away you go. It's tricky. Now you're saying, John, you're not high tech. You're just using old stuff. But you know what? I've done crane work. I've double line technique. You know, the line's coming from here and then here. You're controlling two. I've done everything. Maybe a little bit slower because I was careful. I only have 10 stitches out of my entire tree climbing career, which is pretty darn good. Is anybody else? I've been to the tippity top of the mountain and done the exact same thing as that guy with all that high-tech gear. And not as fast, but you know, speed kills. If you're working too fast, you know, accidents can happen, and I have less equipment, and so I'm good with that. What else can I ramble on about? Nothing much. I think I talked about everything. You know exactly now how to do everything in a tree. Is there anything I left out? Nope. Aside from, again, I'll reiterate one more time again. If you're a healthy 18-year-old, and there's female and male tree climbers, brilliant ones, think about getting into tree work. It's fun. I like it. It's hard work. There's hardly anything more exciting. And get in with a master arborist. Don't just go for a tree company, because those guys, you know, are sacrificing their future lives, you know, for not much, working for people that aren't very good conversationalists. Master arborist. Become a master arborist. Oh, and there's a lot of money in it. I worked for this master arborist guy, and then I went solo. I've got all my equipment, you know, and I was making big bucks. I was charging like $50 an hour to go up and, you know, not removals, but trimming trees. Like 50 freaking bucks an hour, and it was enjoyable. And I had to turn down jobs. I could have done that all day long. Think about it. You have a good one.